Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Hello. Hey, Lucas. Hey, good to see all of you. Well, I'm in Texas, in the southern central part of the United States, and just moved here, as many of you knew from previous meetings. And I've got whole new surroundings here. I just settled in, designed the office the way I love it, with my guitars and all my books and resources handy. So I'm looking forward to growing even more business now that I'm in Texas than I had when I was in California. Today we're going to talk about how to sell professionally and what selling means for you as you explore a career in Bitalium. I want you to think about two things that I've talked about before. One is the frame of mind that's appropriate for this type of selling, the best frame of mind, the best attitude or worldview for this is to think like a startup. Think like an entrepreneur who's just beginning a new business. Think like a startup, learn like a startup, work like a startup. Think like a startup, learn like a startup, work like a startup. So that means to consider all things are possible, all things are open for discussion, all things could be changed if you found a better way. And by the way, during the course of this, what I would like you to do is interact with me. If you've got a question, if you've got a comment, there's a chat function. If you look along the bottom of your screen, there's a little bubble that says chat. If you would open that right now, and in the chat window, just type in hello. Thank you, Camille. Okay, just type in hello and hit enter. There you go, Irena, Dmitry, Bartos, Arno, Edward. Yep, keep them coming. Good. What I want to do is get you comfortable with interacting with me. I'm not here to deliver lectures. I'm here to be a resource for you. Thank you, Cody. To be a resource for you in answering your questions and guiding your growth as you expand your business representing Bitalium, as you expand your sales ability as an individual. So my job is to help you get better. How do I know I've done my job well? By measuring whether you got better. So it's not about me giving a good speech or delivering interesting information. It's about you becoming better at what you do because of the ideas we're able to share here. So I'm looking forward very much to becoming your resource and your friend over these meetings. Today, we're going to talk about the 8 stages in the sales cycle, and we're going to drill down a little bit more in each one. And over coming weeks, I'll explore more details in depth in each area that you show the most interest in and the most need for, okay? Many years ago, I was a brand new sales trainer. I had been a salesperson selling various products over the years, and then I found that what I enjoyed even more than selling was conducting training and helping other people be better at what they do. I loved being a teacher, but I didn't want to be a teacher in public schools or a teacher at university, even though that's something I do today. I'm a professor at a university in California in their School of Management, and I teach their executive MBA program. I teach part of that. But I didn't want to do that early in my career. I wanted to go see the world. I wanted to write books and give speeches and learn from all kinds of people while I was teaching them. So the first thing I did was I learned other people's programs, and I taught those programs as a representative of them. And so I was teaching the motivational training from Earl Nightingale, who was a famous person 20, 30 years ago, actually 40 or 50 years ago. And I was teaching other sales training that I had been taught over the years as a licensee of those people. And then after a few years of doing that, I became better and better at selling and better at training. And I started developing my own training materials. And today I've written and published 20 books around the world. I've developed training programs of every type you can imagine, all focused on business success, training programs in interpersonal communication, in self-development, in business success, in sales, in leadership, in team building, in public speaking, in conducting meetings. I've developed training programs on all those things by learning it first, succeeding at it second, teaching it third, and then developing training materials on it and getting published. So what I'm going to be doing with you is drawing from all that material over 43 years of doing this and working with many of the top names in my field worldwide. So I'll be sharing their ideas, my ideas, and your ideas for that matter. And I want to tell you a quick story about my own path. Many years ago, I was starting out in this business, and I had one client, an insurance agency in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in the central part of the United States. And the insurance company was Massachusetts Mutual Life Insurance. And the general agent, the man who managed that local insurance agency, was a man named Joe Willard. Joe Willard was a very successful salesperson for that company. And they said, how would you like to be the manager of an agency and train other people to sell? He said, yes, I'd like that. So he took over the Tulsa agency, which was failing. The previous leader of that agency was not doing a good job, and the agency was falling apart. And the company was considering closing the agency altogether when Joe said, I'll take it and I'll help make it successful. So they brought Joe in, and Joe started teaching other salespeople what he had been doing as a salesperson, and they became more successful. But Joe was not a traditional insurance salesperson. He didn't just learn the sales speech and go and give it time after time after time to different people. Instead, he thought of himself as a business owner. And he said, I'm building a business, much like you with Bitalium. I'm building a business, and I'm going to do that as an individual salesperson at first, and then I'll grow it as is appropriate over time. So Joe started building his business as an insurance agent and then taught other people how to build theirs. And his agency started becoming more successful. And Joe said, I want to motivate these people to set goals, to be much more effective in developing themselves so that they constantly become better at communicating, better at selling, better at managing their time, better at managing their money, better at decision making, better at many things. So he brought me in. I was a trainer that he had met through another organization. He brought me in to do a seminar for his agency. And I did a seminar, and the agents and I got along very well, and the seminar went well. And Joe said to me at the end of the meeting, Jim, I'd like you to consider coming back and moving into our agency full time. I'll give you an office. And I said, Joe, I don't want an insurance career. I want to be a sales trainer and a motivational speaker and author. He said, I know, but you have to office somewhere. And I said, well, let me think about it. And he said, okay, come back in a few months and do another seminar for my staff as well as my salespeople. I said, okay. So I went on about my business. He went on with his business. And a few months later, I came back. But in coming back, I found that he had moved. He'd moved from a tired old office building in downtown Tulsa, Oklahoma, to a brand new, very impressive office building on the outskirts of town. And he had the top two floors, the penthouse, they call it, the top floor of the office building. And he had it specially designed, redecorated to be just the way he wanted it for his agency. So I got on the elevator and went to the top, got off the elevator, and there's this beautiful chandelier and beautiful decor and a receptionist. She said, "May I help you?" I said, "Yes, I'm Jim Cathcart, here to meet with Joe Willard." She said, "Just a moment." And she buzzed his office, and his secretary came out and led me down a hallway. And I was looking out at the view of the surrounding city through the windows. I was very impressed. Got to Joe's office, and it was a big office, corner office. He welcomed me. I came in and sat down. He pushed a button, and the door closed behind us. I thought, well, that's new. I've never seen an office where a person can push a button and their door closes. And then I looked around the office, and he pushed another button, and the curtains closed because the sun was shining directly in our faces. And I said, "Well, this is impressive." And he said, "Yeah, we've spent a lot of money here. We've got to earn a lot of money to pay for this now." I said, "Okay." I said, "How can I help?" He said, "Well, I changed my mind." He said, "I don't want you to just do a seminar for my staff. I've designated a corner office for you and a secretary for you. And I want you to come here, just stop what you're doing in your other place and move in with us and build your speaking and training business here with our insurance agency." And I said, "Well, will you pay me a small monthly amount of, a regular retainer fee?" He said, "Yes." And I said, "Okay, I'm in." So we shook hands, and I moved into his agency. I was there for 6 years. And for the first year, I didn't have much business of my own outside of that agency. So I spent most of my time training his agents, teaching them selling skills, conducting the sales courses that his company had provided, and spending time with Joe one-to-one as his advisor and his confidant. And we started growing the agency. Well, the agency became more and more successful. And I started getting calls from other agencies saying, "Hey, we understand you are very successful in Tulsa. Come teach us what you do in Tulsa." So I started flying around the USA and teaching other insurance agencies to do what we were doing there. Now, let me interrupt the story for a minute. I ended up being there for 6 years. And during the 6 years, we went from being an agency that was almost shut down because it was unsuccessful to being in the top 5 agencies out of 125 agencies in the entire country in that company. And we won the President's Trophy for Outstanding Agency 2 times in that 5-year period. Our sales went from 17 million a year with 19 sales agents to 231 million a year with the same 19 sales agents, same number, over that 5-year period. So these other agencies started saying, "Jim, please come and teach us to do what you're doing in Tulsa." Well, I took an idea from Joe Willard and expanded that idea, and it's still part of what I teach even now today. I asked Joe, I said, "Joe, you're a simple man from a small country town. You don't have a college degree. You have a reading difficulty. It's hard for you to read because of dyslexia. You're not a highly sophisticated person. So how did you become so successful as a salesperson?" He said, "Well, when I first took the job as a salesperson, I was young, I had no experience. And so I learned everything they were teaching, and I did it exactly as they told me. But then I realized that I was just being an ordinary salesperson. I didn't want to be ordinary. I wanted to be outstanding, extraordinary. And I asked myself, how would the leading salesperson do the things that I'm about to do? So not how did they teach me, but how does the best person they've taught do what I'm about to do? So every day he would say, okay, how would the leading salesperson dress for work today? How would the leading salesperson organize his or her work for the day? How would the leading salesperson handle this problem, make these plans, call these people? And so he started getting to know the leading salespeople and learning only from the leading salespeople. So he didn't want to know just how do you do it? How do you do it really, really well? That became his mindset. And he was asking himself every day, how would the leading salesperson do the things I'm about to do? Well, over time, his sales grew, his career grew. He took over the agency grew. And Joe today is retired and very wealthy and owns a number of other businesses. But Joe did this all with that same mindset. How would the person I admire and want to be like do the things that I'm about to do? And in doing that, his role models were always the best of the best. Now, I learned this method and I started teaching it. In 1979, pause, 1979. How many of you were not even born yet in 1979? Raise your hand. If you were not born yet in 1979, raise your hand. Yeah. See, I was born in 1946. I'm an old guy. This is real gray hair. Okay. 1979 was the year. Now, I was already working as a professional speaker and trainer. I was 33 years old. And I went to Chicago, Illinois, north central part of the United States, huge city, famous city. And I was giving a seminar there for a company that was a startup company called Tidy Car, means very clean car. And it was a company that did auto detailing, auto cleaning, washing and polishing automobiles. And they were a lot like Bitalium. They were a company where you could, for a very small fee, become an agent of that company and have your own business as a Tidy Car licensee. Well, they started offering these kits that people could acquire and use them to polish cars and to do so in a very excellent way. And the people were able to build a business and earn a profit rather rapidly. Kind of like we can do with Bitalium, immediately you can start making money. Well, that became really popular. And so within a few years, Tidy Car had thousands of people who had signed up and become licensees or franchisees of their company. And so there were Tidy Car dealers all over the United States and all over the world. And Tidy Car decided they needed to do some training to teach these people how to build their small businesses. So they hired me to come to Chicago and to conduct a training program. And there were, I think, 50 people, mostly from the USA and Canada, who came to that meeting in Chicago. I did my seminar, and during the seminar, I taught what we were doing in Tulsa, Oklahoma for the insurance agency. And one of the ideas I taught was use the best as your examples and your role models, the people you learn from. Don't try to be ordinary, try to be extraordinary. And at the end of my seminar, a young guy, 19 years old, his name was Tim Seward, he came over to me and he said, could I sit with you at lunch? And I said, sure. So we went into the other room and we sat together at lunch. And at our little table, Tim was seated next to me, and he asked me question after question throughout lunch. And he's writing down notes every time I answered a question. He's keeping detailed notes. And finally, at the end of lunch, he said, "Can I ask you one last question?" I said, "Yes, go ahead." He said, "Do you have a quote?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, a saying, something, a wise statement, a quote, a motto, a slogan that I could use to motivate myself every day. I said, "No." And he was disappointed. He said, "No." I said, "No, I have something better." He said, "Well, what do you have that's better?" I said, "I have a question instead of a quote." He said, "Well, what's the question?" I said, "The question is, how would the person I'd like to become do the things I'm about to do?" He said, "So I should think of somebody I want to be like." I said, "No, think of the future you. Think of Tim in the future, the more enlightened, more experienced, more professional, more successful, more mature Tim. How would that version of you do today's work?" He said, "Oh, yeah, I see. So don't think like the seed of a tree, think like the tree." I said, "Exactly. Don't think like an acorn, think like the oak tree. How would the person I intend to become in the future do the things that I'm going to do today?" Yes. So he wrote that down. Now remember, Tim's 19 years old, no college degree, no money in the bank, no big successful mentor guiding him along the way, no work experience, brand new, but eager to grow, willing to learn, and willing to work hard. Think like a startup, learn like a startup, work like a startup. So Tim went home from that meeting in Chicago to his little town of Bay City, Michigan, which is north of Chicago on the way to Canada. And it's on a bay on one of the Great Lakes. And in Bay City, he had the business of being an auto detailer. That's what they call the person that polishes and washes cars, because they do detailed work. So, auto detailer for Tidy Car in Bay City, Michigan. And Tim said, "Okay, how would me in the future, as the international sales leader for all of Tidy Car," that's a big goal. He wanted to be the number one person in all of Tidy Car worldwide, and he's a 19-year-old kid. He said, "How would the international sales leader, Tim Seward, do today's work here in Bay City, Michigan?" He said, "First, how would he dress for work?" And he thought he would dress professionally. So instead of wearing a t-shirt and jeans, Tim got some coveralls with a Tidy Car patch on the pocket and his name on it. And the coveralls made him look like a working professional. And so he dressed for work in a better way. And then he said, "Okay, how would the international sales leader organize his work?" And instead of having just a stack of paper where he had all his notes and receipts and reminders, he started organizing his materials, organized his work, got himself a scheduling calendar, started doing things, because it didn't have cell phones back then and you couldn't do this digitally. It was all on paper. So he started organizing his work better. He got a filing system and started filing things. He got his work materials. He put them in a special place in his garage, and he got better organized. He kept things clean because he figured the international sales leader would be much more professional about everything. He took better care of his tools because the international sales leader would take better care of his tools. Okay. So That was step one. Then when he went out and called on customers, he started doing a much better job than he used to do because he figured the international sales leader would do a really good job for every customer and stay in touch with them better and communicate better. Well, Tim's business started to grow and he got more referrals and more new business. And he got to where he couldn't do all the business himself. So he had to hire other people and teach them how to think about doing a professional job. And he'd supervise them at first to make sure they did it really well, like he would do it. Otherwise, he wouldn't continue to work with them. Well, his business grew and grew. Next, he had to find a permanent location. So he rented a service station, a gasoline station that was closed down. He rented one, cleaned it up, made it look professional, put his signage up, and that became his permanent location, even though he also did mobile work going out to other people. There's a reason I'm telling you this story, so stay with me. Tim continued. And then he thought, how would the international sales leader grow his business? And he thought he would grow it like a business owner, not just like a worker. So he talked to other business owners and learned from them, how do you organize a business? How do you think about growing a larger business? And then he was competing with all the other salespeople in Tidy Car to see who would be the international sales leader. And Tim was doing pretty well. And the annual meeting was going to be held in the southern part of the United States in the city of New Orleans, Louisiana. So Tim went to the convention in Louisiana. I was the keynote speaker at that convention. At the convention on the final night, they were giving an award to the international sales leader. There were about 200 or 300 people in the room. It was a big convention room at a hotel with banquet tables and elegant decorations. It was a beautiful room and a big stage in the front. And on the stage was a bright, shiny, new white Chevrolet Corvette sports car. And that sports car, which today would be worth over $100,000, was going to be awarded to the international sales leader. And everyone in the room was looking at this car while they're listening to my speech. And at the end of the speech, I gave the microphone back to the president of the company, a man named Gary Goranson. And Gary stepped up and said, ladies and gentlemen, all year long, all of you have been working hard to compete to become international sales leaders so you could win this car. Well, tonight's the night. And you know who's in the running, but you don't know who's won. He said, I have here a list of the winners. He said, let me tell you about the competition. It was a close competition. The person in position number 3 led number 4 by only 1 point. Number 4 led 5 by 1 point. 5 led 6 by 2 points. Though there were hundreds of points, these people were that close together. The person in position number 2 led number 3 by 1 point. But the person in first place, the international sales leader, led number 2 by 300 points. The gap between number 1 and number 2 was enormous. Between 2 and 3, 3 and 4, 4 and 5, 5 and 6 was very minor. There was no competition for number 1. The winner ran away with this. Welcome with me, your international sales leader from Bay City, Michigan, Tim Seward. The place went crazy. Everybody jumping and cheering and screaming and applauding for Tim. They picked him up on their shoulders. They're dancing him around the room. They put him up on the stage. Music is playing, lights are flashing. I mean, it's an exciting, exciting moment. Tim's on stage. He's now 20 years old, but he's still very young. He goes over and he's touching the car and savoring the moment of his success. And I walked over to him and I gave him a big hug of congratulations. And I said, Tim, what did you do? He said, I just did what you said in Chicago. I said, well, what did I say in Chicago that was so smart? And he laughed and he said, Jim, the daily question. I said, the daily question? He said, yeah. How would the person I'd like to be do the things I'm about to do? I said, well, tell me a story. And he told me the story I just shared with you about how he went home, upgraded everything in his life to be more like the person he aspired to be instead of like the person he used to be. And how he set himself apart from the competition by being much more professional, much more dedicated, much more an eager learner, learning from everyone, and much more willing to do the hard work, especially at first. And I said, Tim, that's just brilliant. I'm proud of you. He said, it gets better. I said, well, how does it get better? He said, well, I was getting ready to come to New Orleans, and that's a long trip from Michigan. I said, yeah. He said, well, I asked myself, how would the international sales leader go to New Orleans? I said, but Tim, you didn't know you were the leader. He said, no, I knew I was in the competition in the last few, but I didn't know if I'd won. I said, but you decided you would ask yourself, how would the international sales leader go to New Orleans? He said, yes. He said, I decided he would fly first class. I said, now you, without knowing whether you'd won or not, you bought a first class ticket to New Orleans? He said, yes, one way. I said, Tim, you didn't know you had won. He said, no, but if I'm the international sales leader, why do I need a return ticket? I have a new car. That blew my mind. I said, I've never seen such confidence. I said, well, what would you have done if you hadn't been number one? He said, I would have taken a bus home or a train. I said, well, bravo, my friend. I am very, very impressed. Well, Tim drove his Corvette home, and he went on the next year to become the international sales leader yet again. And he opened a second tidy car shop in another neighboring city. And he won that year a Cadillac automobile. So Tim was driving around in some pretty nice cars. And he was growing his business. And then he sold his business. And he went on, and did many good things. And I went on with my career, and we didn't see each other for a long time. And then several years later, I think it was like, let's see, that was 1988. I was in Fort Myers, Florida, which is the far southeastern part of the United States. And I was traveling there to give a speech at a convention, and I learned that Tim Seward had moved from Bay City, Michigan to Fort Myers, Marco Island, Florida, which is near Fort Myers. And Tim, I reached out to him, said hello. He said, hey, let me pick you up at the airport. So he picked me up at the airport, and he no longer had a Corvette nor a Cadillac. He had a big, amazing sport utility vehicle, SUV. And he drove me to my hotel. And then he said, I want you to come to my home and have dinner. So we went to his home, where we dined by his indoor swimming pool. 19-year-old kids who wash cars don't usually have indoor swimming pools. Tim Seward was no longer a 19-year-old kid who washed cars. He was a 29-year-old adult who had built and sold businesses and he had a home that was so big and luxurious that he had an indoor swimming pool in Florida. I said, tell me the story. He said, well, I succeeded with Tidy Car so well that I became sort of the leading person that everybody else came to learn from. And I decided to sell my Tidy Car business, and I did. And I built another business providing supplies to people like Tidy Car. And that business succeeded, and I sold that business for $7 million. He said, I retired. I said, retired at age 29? He said, Jim, I'm a multimillionaire. I left Michigan, where it's very cold in the winter, and I came here to Florida, where it's very warm and beautiful. And I'm just managing my money and flying around the world and showing my wife and son the beautiful places we want to visit. I said, oh my God, wow. Wow. I said, Tim, you're more successful than I am. This was 1988. And he said, well, I'm a happy man. I'm going back to college now. I want to get my master's in business administration, my MBA. And, I manage my investments. I said, well, wow. I just have one question. And he said, what's that? I said, do you have a quote? He said, a what? I said, a motto, a slogan, a saying, something I could use to motivate myself every day. And he just started laughing because he remembered that same moment in Chicago many years before. He said, yes, Jim. Here's the answer. Every day, ask yourself, how would the person I'd like to become do the things I'm about to do? See, that's the same idea Joe Willard used in learning to be the top agent in his insurance agency. Tim Seward used it to go from having nothing to building a successful business, to growing the business, selling the business, building another business, selling that business, becoming a very wealthy man, and at age 29, being financially independent. Age 29. He'd only been working at it for 10 years. Now, I want you to think for a minute. I posed the idea to you that with focusing on one thing over the next 5 years, you could transform your life. And I asked you the question, what one thing could I focus on, could you focus on for the next 5 years and put all of your good energy into that and stay that one path for 5 consecutive years? What one thing could you do in that way that would transform your life and solve all your major financial problems? There's a very good chance the answer to that is Bitalium. It could be other things as well. That differs from one person to the next. But think that way, because that's what Tim did. He stayed in one course, became exceptionally good at that, thought in terms of the more successful me in the future, how would he or she do what I'm doing today? And he upgraded every single thing he did. And he became so successful that before he was 30 years old, he could do anything in the world he wanted to. Today, he was born in 1969. So 79, 89, 99, 2009, 2019, 2019. He is, he's 51 years old. Good heavens. Tim Seward is already 51 years old, but today he is the owner of a multi-million-dollar Google licensed company, and he works in the technology field. But Tim has the option of doing whatever he wants, because as long as he manages his money well, as long as he takes care of his health, keeps himself and his family safe, he can do anything he chooses to do. Now, starting where you are today, many of you are greatly advanced from where he began. Some of you are starting at break even like he did. but taking the advantages you have already in your skill set, in your mindset, in your business opportunity, in your world, the people you know, the things you're able to do well, focusing your energies, same path, same way, growing, constantly improving, you can transform your life. Now, what I'm going to do over the coming weeks is I'm going to share with you several ebooks. Each ebook is a short version of my book, Relationship Selling. Relationship Selling is a book that focuses on how to build sales by considering each human connection to be an asset. Because the relationship at the beginning is simply a transaction. Here's my product, here's your money, we're done. That's over. Okay? But a relationship is a connection between people in which value is exchanged. So someone says to you, I'd like to be involved with Bitalium. So you help them get involved with Bitalium, but you stay connected with them in such a way that you become their coach, their mentor, and their guide, their confidant, their friend, their advisor. You become their partner in solving problems and achieving goals. You help them refine the goals that they set. You help them think through the fears and the issues that they have to deal with. And you become an important part of their life. And they start looking to you when they have a need or when they want to feel a bit more motivated or inspired. So you elevate yourself to a higher level of ability to help and serve, and you help elevate other people in the process. The quickest way in the world to get everything you want is to help other people get what they want. That's a paraphrase of my friend Zig Ziglar. Zig Ziglar is a famous motivational speaker from the United States. He passed away a couple of years ago. But Zig Ziglar wrote a book called See Yourself at the Top, which contains the same general idea that I've been sharing with you from Joe Willard. See yourself at the top and then ask, how would that me do today's work? Okay. So take the idea from Zig Ziglar. You can get everything you want in life if you just help enough other people get what they want. Okay. Take that idea and start building relationships. What is a relationship? It's not just being nice to people. A relationship is a connection between people in which value is exchanged. Okay. What is value? Depends on the recipient. What's valuable to you may not be valuable to me. Same is true in reverse. I may value things you don't care about much. Okay. All people value freedom. All people value wealth. All people value good health. All people value loving and enjoyable and safe relationships. There are certain basic human needs we all value. Well, the more you can provide those kind of needs for people, the more they consider you to be important in their life. So how do you make other people glad they know you? Well, find out what they need and want and help them get it. And don't talk about yourself all the time. Listen to them, learn from them, study them, observe and then reflect, and then get engaged again and show them better ways. You see, today, this is 2020, the year 2020. When I went to work with Mass Mutual Life Insurance Company in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the year was 1977. 77. Joe Willard was a stranger to me in 1977. He found out about me because I was teaching a class at a local college, Tulsa University, University of Tulsa. And I was teaching a night course there on time management and goal setting. And that's why he heard about that. And that's why he hired me to do a seminar for his salespeople on the subject of goal setting. Well, he decided as a result of that to bring me into the agency. So we became coworkers and we became friends. Joe was my mentor and I was his confidant and advisor and friend, business friend. Then we became personal friends. I went on to grow my career. I've now, long since left Tulsa, Oklahoma, moved to California, lived in California 37 years. 12 days ago, moved from California here to Austin, Texas. And so I'm starting a whole new phase of my life and career here in Austin. But 2 years ago, I was doing annual lecture tours of China. In fact, last year, 2019, I did 71 days of training and consulting in China. I was speaking to tens of thousands of people, doing big motivational rallies, keynote speeches, and also doing small seminars for groups of high achievers. And I've written 4 books in Chinese. No, I don't speak Chinese, but I had my books translated into Chinese. 71 days in 2019, I was in China. 6 separate trips. I also do a lot of work in the United States, and I work in Poland, I work in South America, I work all over the world, but mostly China until recently. Obviously, with the COVID-19 crisis, China work stops for the time being. 2 years ago, I called Joe Willard. And I was in California. Joe Willard's still in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Joe's retired, he's got a big ranch there. His wife is a doctor, and they run some businesses that are compatible with her work as a doctor. But I called Joe and I said, hey, it's been a long time. Let's catch up. He said, yeah. He said, by the way, Jim, congratulations on your career success. I said, Joe, well, it all started with you. I'm still this day asking myself, how would the person I'd like to become do the things I would like to do? And he laughed. And I said, I owe you one. He said, what do you mean you owe me one? I said, I'm indebted to you for the friendship, the guidance, and the mentorship you've provided over all these years. He said, no, you don't owe me anything. I said, well, I feel I do, and I want to repay the debt. He said, well, how are you going to do that? I said, I'm sending you a plane ticket. I want you to fly first class from Oklahoma to Shanghai, China. And I want you to join me for 10 days doing a lecture tour in China and in Taiwan. All expenses paid as my guest. He said, he calls me JC, my initials, Jim Cathcart. He said, JC, he said, that's a big gift. I said, well, it's my way of saying I thank you, I appreciate you, and I love you as a brother. He said, let me get back to you. He called me back and he said, I'm in. Let's do it. Joe came to China with me, and we had one of the best times of our adult lives. Lots of laughs, lots of fun. He came to each of my seminars where I was speaking to thousands of people. I brought him up on stage and interviewed him to get success secrets that he could share with the audience. So he ended up signing autographs as well as me at the end of my speeches, which was fun for him. He went back home and he called me later and he said, JC, he said, I had more fun with you in China than almost anything I've done as an adult. He said, that was one of the greatest times of my life. And I said, well, Joe, because it was so special for me to be able to serve you in that way, it was also one of the great experiences of my adult life. Now, I want you to think for a moment, all of you, about where all this started. I was a young, rosy cheeked young guy starting a training business. And Joe was a young insurance agent who had been successful in sales, and he was starting an agency, a business. And we got together and started collaborating, thinking, how would the people we would like to become do the work we're doing today? And we did it so well over time, making mistakes and correcting along the way, did it so well over time, we became the leaders in his industry. And then I became the leader in my industry, ultimately becoming president of the National Speakers Association and being inducted into the Sales and Marketing Hall of Fame in London and the Professional Speakers Hall of Fame in the United States. I went on to write 20 books, to deliver 3,300 lectures around the world for very high fees, and to just have a wonderful, wonderful career. You can do that same thing in your world, in your field. You may not see it yet, but you can do that. But it requires first that you think like a startup business owner. Second, that you learn from everybody, from everything like a startup, and that you work like a startup. Now, I mentioned to you that the 8 stages in a sales cycle. I've written an ebook from my book, Relationship Selling. I've written a shorter ebook, digital book, that I'll be sharing with each of you. And each of these ebooks is going to be an easy read, something that you'll find entertaining. It's got cartoons and graphics in it, short, simple ideas, quick little stories like the one about Tim Seward, stories in there that illustrate the points. So it's going to be not only easy, but also enjoyable to learn, and it won't take long. And I'll share these books with you over time, with each of these sessions. The first one is going to be called Sales Readiness, because it's not just about sales preparation. It's about being ready to do your job well. A lot of people, when you say, well, what do you do in preparation? They'll just say, well, I get my materials together. I think about what I'm going to do, and then I go do it. No, it's not that you're ready to do the work. What's important is that you're ready to do it well, ready to do it very well. So that requires a higher level of thinking and a better way of preparing. So finding, sales readiness is about finding the ways that will do that. Second sales book you'll get is Finding the Buyers. Finding the people who need what you have. What I was looking for on the shelf is a copy of the book, Finding the Buyers. I printed it out and I was going to show it to you. I didn't find it right away, so I won't bother you with that. But that you're going to get a copy of that one. And finding the buyers means not just finding people you can talk to, but finding people who you ought to be talking to. Who are the right people? Who are the ones that can already say yes to you? Because you don't want to be calling on people who would be struggling to get by. You don't want to make your market the desperate people that really, really need this. You want to make it the people who will see the opportunity and take advantage of that opportunity quickly. People that already have in their bank account or in their pocket enough money to get started. People that already have enough basic knowledge that you don't have to spend your whole time educating them about how to build a business like this one with Bitalium, how to grow a community, right? So you're looking for the people that you can make immediate sales to, the people you can make sales that begin something really big, and the people that will enable you later to be able to deal with all the people who desperately need an opportunity like this You'll be able to deal with them because you don't have to worry about your own income. See, if you are hungry and you're going out to feed other people, but you don't take time to eat, you will die before you have fed many other people. But if you learn to fill your own needs, if you eat what you need to eat, if you take care of your own health, if you manage your own money well, if you run your own business intelligently, then you will grow your capacity to help to where you can help not just dozens of people, but millions of people. So don't build a community with people that are needy. Build a community with people that are highly capable. And then all of you can serve those who are more needy when the time for that comes. Okay. So that's about finding the buyer. Second, connecting with your customer. When you first make contact with people, there are two things going on. Their head is asking them, does this person look like someone who really knows what they're doing? Does this look like someone I can rely on? Someone that is professional, intelligent, dedicated, honest, right? That's what their head is asking them. At the same time, their heart is asking them, is this someone I can trust? Someone who cares about me? Or is it just someone who's trying to get my money? If you connect with them on the heart level, where they trust you, they can tell you care about them, they will start to care about you. And they will open up and tell you more about how you can work together. If they do not trust you, they will guard and protect and only disclose tiny little bits of information so that you won't fully be able to serve them yet because you don't know the truth. So connect with their head by being credible, being professional, being well organized, being a person of your word. Do what you say you will do when you say you will do it in the way that you said you would do it. A person who solves the problems that come up instead of a person who stands back and says, it wasn't my fault. Okay. And then connect with their heart by genuinely caring about them as a human being, showing them that you care, taking an interest in them, listening to them, considering what they say to be important to them, even if it's not important to you. If they're afraid of something you don't think is scary, don't brush it off. They're still scared. Help them alleviate their fear. Okay? So head and heart, that's connecting with people. The next sales book, ebook you will get is called Sales Psychology. This one is about how to read people, because people will teach you how to succeed with them if you learn how to study the cues and clues. See, we constantly give off information about the way we like to receive information and the way we like to connect with other people. We constantly give off information about what's important to us and what's not. We constantly give off information about how we think about things, whether it's big ideas, strategies, tactics, or functions. We constantly give off information about how intensely we want to do something, whether it's fast paced, go for the gusto, or take it easy, be careful and cautious and slow. We constantly give off information about whether we want to be more accurate or be more rapid in getting the outcome or be more careful in connecting with people or be more precise and accurate in the details that we're doing. In other words, there are many, many, many ways to understand psychology and to read people so that you can succeed more with every person you ever meet. And that's what that book's about. There's also an ebook about gaining commitment to buy. I call it Getting the Sale. In old school sales training, they would teach you how to close this sale, and we'll talk about that more later. That's not what it's all about. It's about getting someone to say, yes, I want this, and to take action on that desire. So there's two stages. One is solving the customer's problems, showing them what you can do. That's about how do you make sales presentations? How do you have the discussion with people about the opportunity and about the community and how you can put all this together to grow a business for them? So that's solving the customer's problem. That's also an ebook that you will get. And then the second one is getting the sale. How do you get someone to go through the thought process and say, yep, I want to do this. Okay, I'll do it now. So that is the second part of that one. Solve the problem, get their commitment. The next ebook you'll get is called Assuring Customer Satisfaction. It's about customer loyalty. How do you get a customer, someone who's decided, yeah, I want to sign up with you? How do you get them to be happy that they did that? I mean, happy now and happy for the next few weeks, and really happier about it over time so that they become a loyal part of your community. So we're going to explore that. There are known ways to do these things. That's the reason I'm here, is to teach you already known and proven ways to do each of these stages in a sales cycle. Because selling is about all 8: preparation, targeting the right people, connecting with them, assessing their needs, solving their problem, getting their commitment to buy, assuring they're satisfied, managing sales, and managing yourself. And that's another ebook. The ebook is on managing sales and managing yourself. And it's an overview of relationship selling. So all of those are resources that will come to you in the coming weeks. And I'm the resource that will be here a couple of times every month for you to directly ask me questions and to offer comments and be involved in learning sessions like this one. So let's look. We've gone through an hour of this, and what I've tried to do in this hour is pack it full of content that you could directly relate to, so that you could see yourself evolving as a sales professional, yourself evolving as the leader and builder of a Bitalium community, so that you can see the future you, and then you can start to learn from him or her by asking every day, how would the person I intend to become do the things I'm about to do today? I'll take some quick questions right here at the end, and then we'll wrap this together, and I'll see you again next time. Anyone got a question or a comment you'd like to share right now? Type it in the chat room. We've got 30 people on the call from all over the world. Let me go to gallery view. Man, I can see all of you laid out there. Look at that. Got a lot of folks in here. Any quick questions? Thank you, Eugenia. Thank you very much. There'll be no questions because my trainings are so good and easy to learn. Well, bless your heart. Thank you for that. You bet. You bet. It's my pleasure. And I want all of you to know, I really appreciate this opportunity to be here with you as part of this. And I look forward to getting to know you personally over time. And I look forward very much to the day when all this COVID-19 mess is out of our way and we can get together in the same city, in the same location, and celebrate and learn together as we all continue to grow our success. In the meantime, feel free, Master Jedi, thank you, Casper. Feel free to drop me an email to do whatever you need to do to get a question to me, and I'll be happy to prepare that for next time. Question from Judy Emmanuel Mambela is, would I translate my books into French as well? No, I won't be translating any of the books, but I'd welcome any French publisher to translate my books. Thank you. And Bangladesh, Wonder Muna. Wow, so many people So many people from around the world. What a privilege it is to be involved in this with you. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day or evening. I'm glad I got to be part of your day. Bye-bye.